Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be making a hypersonic
Fat Pusty
for today's video, and that involves the Ultra Boost all the way to ×10 with the Engineer, the Permanent Brew on the Alchemist, and then finally the Homeland Defense on the Village.
Huge thank you to Boltrix here for finally giving me some voice lines that I can use. Anyways, without further ado, let's get right into the game. So the first thing you're going to notice here is that my voice is not being synced up with bottom right me, and that is because I'm recording this after the fact. And that's because the sounds you hear in game are terrible. Go skip to 639 if you want to hear that. Now, I've got some hot topics I'd like to discuss, and one of those things is issuing my formal apology to Ninja Kiwi. And that is regarding their bling system. I was very critical of their bling system when it was first announced. I was looking at some of the numbers and I was really worried it was going to be an absolute grind for a free-to-play user, and they're really pushing the VIP. Well, I have to say, yes, it is still a little grindy for free-to-play. I won't deny that. But it's a decent system, especially considering you're getting additional rewards here. So it's not a terrible system that they've implemented, and it's balanced actually fairly well, and I can prove that with this infographic that I spent way too long making. So I'm going to show that on the screen here, and you can kind of see all the details highlighting how long it'll take and everything else. So once again, my deepest apologies, Ninja Kiwi. I genuinely thought you would drop the ball there, but hey, that's okay, because you dropped the ball somewhere else. So now we're going to talk about one of the other big issues that's plaguing the Holomasters Elo system, which didn't receive any true changes, although it did receive some changes in the patches. It just wasn't mentioned in the patch itself. So the numbers are all speculatory still because we don't have official confirmation or anything else like that from Ninja Kiwi, but basically what it's looking like is that if you're in Holomasters and let's say you're 15th in rank, you can only play against people plus and minus 10 from you. So you can play up to 5th place and below down to 25th place. Now the issue with this is just like my experience with ZOMG queuing was. It was taking me, 5 to 10 to sometimes even up to 15 minutes to find a game. Now in Holomasters, you are being limited to potentially 19 other players that you can potentially queue against. And if those 19 players aren't playing at the same time, you are going to sit in queue until someone above drops below into your rank or someone below pumps up above into your rank queue. And that is a humongous, blaring issue in the game right now for Holomaster players. See, you thought I was just going to sit here and praise Ninja Kiwi for a decent patch, especially considering this is the last content patch for the year. We are not going to get another content patch until at the earliest January 4th. That's when the new season should roll out. But again, this is a humongous issue, and Ninja Kiwi is known to sometimes do a mid-season balance patch. So honestly, I'm hoping that does get fixed during that patch, because this is a huge issue, and if this is their way of how they were going to address the kind of ELO inflation and deflation that certain players had based on their hidden MMR versus their actual visual MMR, it's not the greatest way to do it, in my opinion, because yeah, some of these players have been sitting in queue for like an hour just because there's no one playing at the time. And so as always, as is tradition with Ninja Kiwi patches, it always feels like they take one step forward and then potentially 2 steps back, which is a frustrating experience, especially considering we're almost going on a year into the game, and at this point it feels like we've just gone backwards a bit. Honestly, I'm curious what y'all think about both the Blink system and the recent Holomaster discovery, because these are two very important things involving the game, and they're both doing completely opposite things, right? Like the Blink system is trying to get players to actually play the game and be consistent and not just simply wait until the end of the season to actually start to climb and care about the progression. And on the other hand, you have this Holomaster system, which is almost actively preventing you from playing games. So it creates this dichotomy where they're trying to get people to just play the game more consistently, and at the same time they're taking away other players' ability to play the game more consistently. In fact, that brings me to another issue that we should probably talk about, and that is the 1-year anniversary of Bloons TD Battles 2. So we don't know if they have anything planned, and again, maybe I shouldn't be speculating again, but based on the content drop and when it did and everything else, are they even going to be celebrating the first anniversary of the game? Like, I feel like that's a momentous occasion, even though it has flopped as much as it did, right? Like, as much as they might have thought this game would be in a little bit better of a position than it currently is, I feel like they should be doing something for this, right? Like, they're even doing something for BTD 5's 10th anniversary, and I understand there's more significance behind a 10-year anniversary, but the fact is they have a really good sequel in BTD 6, and yet they're still providing, you know, some fun update content for BTD 5 to get people to just go back and check out what they're doing in that game. I feel like it sends the community the wrong message if Ninja Kiwi doesn't at least acknowledge it's the 1-year anniversary of the game. Sure, it's not in the greatest state, but hey, show some respect that you're going to make the game better. You're committed to just constantly improving the game. And man, you know what I'd really love to see is a freaking roadmap. I feel like I talked about this in the last video, but just show us what you're up to and what things you have in store for us for next season, and that'll be so much better than what we've currently got here. Also, oh my god, I think this is the clip where, this is the wrong clip. My bad, y'all. We'll skip ahead to a more relevant point in the actual clip. Oops. Alright, here we go. This is much better, and it's also much laggier, and unfortunately there's nothing I can do about that. This isn't like my hardware or my opponent's hardware just not being able to handle the game. This is kind of just what happens when two engineer players go up against each other late game. The game gets really choppy and really laggy, so I apologize that. Oh yeah, and if you're wondering why, another reason why I don't have any sound playing here is because literally, if I let you hear the sound, this is all you're gonna hear for like the 15-minute video. So trust me when I'm trying to save your own hearing, because it's an awful grating noise. Anyways, I feel like we should actually probably talk about Pat Pusty a little bit. 7 minutes into the video, whatever. Let's talk about Pat Pusty. So, I've heard a couple people say he's very overpowered, and I've heard a couple people tell me he's a little underpowered. Now, in my experience from using him, his knockback is interesting. It seemingly permastuns, but as you'll see soon, it doesn't seem to have great pierce, especially late game. Now, I don't know what might be affecting that. Maybe the ramping health, for whatever reason, it's scaled to that or something else, but you're going to see my opponent send me a certain rush, and it's not going to do that well. Whereas people that I've seen and I've watched their gameplay with Pat Pusty, it feels like, his knockback is really good, especially against dealing with a BFB or even a ZOMG into BFB into MOB insides. Like, he's able to juggle those back pretty quickly. That's another thing that I feel like Pat Pusty has an advantage here is his level 10 is really good at dealing with the outer layer for ZOMGs, which a lot of strategies struggle with that outer layer, and the fact that he can just one-shot it and bring it down to a BFB situation is a lot better for a lot of different compositions. Now for his level 3 rallying roar ability, although it's good, its biggest weakness is that you have to have the towers that you want right around Pat Pusty. So things like Monkey Ace or Heli, you're really limited to what you can put near him. A lot of people I heard were maybe suggesting doing Dartling, but that either means you put Pat Pusty in a terrible spot, or you end up putting your Dartling in a terrible spot, and I just don't see that happening. But it would be a good fit otherwise. I still think Pat Pusty and TAC is probably what you're going to see most commonly, because TAC is a small footprint tower to begin with, and it just scales really well with Pat Pusty's ability because it gives all the projectiles on TAC zone and overdrive and stuff like that an extra layer of popping, which is humongous damage. I'm curious to know what y'all think about Pat Pusty, and maybe there's like some weird synergy that I haven't even thought about, but we can move on and talk about Snowman Pusty, who's a lot more unique. Like, this is what I thought the direction of alt skins would be in Battles 2 when they announced and they showcased that they would just have different abilities and such, and I like this a lot. So Snowman Pusty focuses solely on Ice Monkey synergy, nothing else. That's it. If you're playing anything else, don't expect Pusty to do any extra help. His level 10 still grabs BFBs, MOBs, DDTs, and ZOMGs, so you don't have to worry about that, but it functions a little bit differently. It does like an AoE damage. I'm going to be honest, I'm not all too sure of what it does exactly because I don't have it unlocked yet. I still find it's still a little grindy to unlock the alt skins, although it is so much better than what it used to be, so maybe I shouldn't be complaining about that. Wait, freeze frame this. I just want to showcase here my Pat Pusty just before we're about to send the rush is sitting at around 5,000 pops. And the only reason I'm bringing that up is because I almost felt like I did something wrong here, because as you're going to see pretty shortly from now, the damage that I end up doing with God Boosted Fat Pusty was very little, and also the stun knockback effect just didn't seem to work at all. In fact, you know what, let's just skip ahead here a little bit. Let's speed this up. Now, obviously, Pat Pusty on his own is not great, but Pat Pusty paired with towers actually doing stuff is really good. So don't get this wrong, this isn't like Pat Pusty sucks or anything like that, but yeah. My opponent here is going to be sending me, I think I told him to send me like 12 BFBs. So we've got the ZOMG and 12 BFBs, and we're getting an overclock and getting everything ready to go here. So we're going to pop the Ultra Boost, get that fully stacked up. I think we're going to pop Homeland and then hit our boost soon when I realize, hey, we can't even keep up with just 12 BFBs in the ZOMG here, which was wild to me. I was just like, why are they not being knocked back far enough? So at this point I started to panic, and I was just like, you know, I got to do something. So, but I didn't really have anything else to do. So I was like, okay, let's use the level 10 ability, because I need to take down some of these BFBs. Because I wanted to showcase more than just these BFBs, but it's a big struggle. Now, mobs, no problem. Pat Pusty's still knocking back mobs like it's no big deal. Great job. But he's really struggling here to the point where I'm buying a triple XL trap in the front, and I don't realize in time. And also the lag of everything is just making it impossible for me to get that trap over towards the exit. Realistically, I should have put my NG right up at the front of the exit, and we wouldn't have this problem. But there's Pat Pusty, and he really didn't do much at all. Let me freeze frame because I forgot to showcase, but here's the amount of pops that he recorded about midway through that. So here it is, 25,828 pops. Not a whole lot from the 5K extra. So again, the reason why I thought this was weird, because I'm going to load up some BTD 6 footage now and just showcase the exact same setup in BTD 6, because you'll be surprised at just how well it handles an even larger rush. Okay, so in this clip here, I sent 12 ZOMGs and then 12 BFBs, and then I decided to send more BFBs because it was perma-stunning it until he get a little bit pierce capped, and then once we activated Homeland, it's back to pierce capping. So as we clearly see, it's a lot better, but obviously I don't want this in battles too. Like, this is a little ridiculous. You really shouldn't be able to do this, but yeah, I don't know whether it's like the BFB ramping for late game and somehow that damage gets applied and therefore weakens his knockback effect, or something else that's coded into battles too, but there's definitely a much bigger difference in the pop count he's earning right now and everything else. Anyways, that's going to be the end of the video. Go watch my other videos that are better, and subscribe, please. Thanks.